What happens when two men who have lived through the darkest corners of British crime sit down in the same room and tell you what life really costs? Today on the Terry Stone Connection, I'm sitting down with Chris Lambrianou and Steve Walker. Now, Chris Lambrianou's name is forever tied to one of the most infamous chapters in British gangland history. The Krays, the Firm, the East End. The Jack the Hat McVitie murder, prison, and a life that changed forever when the old London underworld finally caught up with itself. Chris was there in a world most people only know through films, books, and whispered stories. But sitting beside him is Steve Walker, known to many as Psycho Steve, a man with his own brutal past, guns, drugs, police chases, and a sort of life that can swallow a man whole if he doesn't find a way out. But what makes this conversation so powerful is that neither of these men are sitting here to glamorise it. This isn't two old faces polishing up war stories. This is two men who've seen the damage from the inside. Because the streets sell you one version of the story, the films sell you another. But Chris Lambrianou and Steve Walker are here to tell you what's left when the fear, the money, the names, and the madness are all gone. And when Chris and Steve explain what finally made them turn away from the life, you realise this isn't just a story about British crime, it's a warning from two men who survived it. When you're 25, a night out costs you a morning. Once you're over 45, it can cost you a few days. Now, obviously, if you drink too much, you're going to feel rough. I'm not going to sit and pretend otherwise. But what I realised was that for a lot of men, the alcohol wasn't the only problem. They were already sleeping worse than they used to. They weren't training or moving as much. Their diet wasn't always brilliant. And many of them weren't getting enough of the basic vitamins and minerals that the male body relies on every single day. That's what made me start looking into what men might actually be missing. Zinc, for example, contributes to the maintenance of normal testosterone levels. Magnesium and vitamin B6 help reduce tiredness and fatigue and support normal energy metabolism. Vitamin D supports normal muscle function, and it's something many British men don't get much of when they spend most of their day indoors. These aren't magic ingredients. What's in here is basic building blocks that your body needs to support energy, normal muscle function, and healthy testosterone levels. That's how I came across Zapply T1. It's the ultimate supplement made specifically for men with 14 vitamins, minerals, and carefully selected ingredients in one daily serving. It's the same formula used by athletes like UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall, and it's not just professional athletes using it. More than 100,000 men have already used Zapply as part of their daily routine. You can try it for yourself with their 90-day money-back guarantee. I'll put the link down below for you, so click on it and release your inner maniac. Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast, and this week's episode sees not one, but two legends from the underworld. We've got the old school meeting the new. We've got Mr. Chris Lambrianou in the house, who is very well known, and we've also got Steve Walker in the house, who's equally as well known, and I just want to share both these guys' stories with you and also what they're up to now, because it is remarkable what they're doing. So please put your hands together for Mr. Chris Lambrianou and Steve Walker in the house. Hey!
Thank you for
coming on, Chris. Let's see you, Steve. So we'll start off with Chris, because age before beauty.
Very right.
Well, you can
That's
add
correct.
a touch of beauty in there as well. You understand what I'm saying? But I do have an angelic side.
But you know, we recently had obviously your brother Jimmy on.
Jimmy, yeah.
Obviously, I've known you from sort of back in the day, and I was good friends with Tony as well. And you know, I think for all the viewers and listeners that don't know, obviously you had your own firm in the 60s, the Lambrianou brothers, and obviously I heard Jimmy's side, but he said that you were the man, right? So I'm glad that the man's here to obviously sort of shed some light on it. But you know, how did you sort of end up working with the Krays in the 60s?
Well, it was a funny thing. I didn't work with the Krays. I never wanted to.
Right.
I wanted to be independent. So I kind of met different people. I'd been in a Prue school, Borstal detention centre, young prisoners. So I knew people from one end of this country to the other. They'd tell me about Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, Coventry, Plymouth. We knew everybody because institutions are like a university. So you go to prep school, then you go to sort of like youngster school, then you go to sort of like secondary school, and if you're good enough, you get to university.
Right.
So I went to the University of Crime. And by the time I was away, in Borstal, I can remember seeing Roy Shaw, Lenny Smithers, all the faces that became real faces in the day. And they were all solid people. You could go anywhere with them. But one thing we all had in common, we were all skint.
Right.
You know, or we've been bullied or we've been kind of intimidated. And we learned to stand up for ourselves. And in learning to stand up for yourself, you became of interest to other people. When you've done that kind of time in prison or everything else, you can't go and just get a job.
Right.
They want to know your background, where you came from, everything else the way it was. And I just wanted to belong.
Right.
And I'd had the institutionalised, like education of crime.
Right.
And it was the only time I could fit in.
Was Tony joining you on that journey, or was you on that journey?
No, I was on that journey on my own.
Right, got it.
And so what happened was, eventually I got to meet people like Kenny Bloom, best long-firm man in the country.
Right.
I met people like Richie Anderson. You never hear about these names.
No, do you know what I'm really interested in, Chris, is lots of people will have heard of the long-firm fraud.
Yeah.
But I'd love if you could just explain it so that people that are, I mean, I know you couldn't do it now, but obviously back then it was a thing, wasn't it?
No, I mean, I just came in as a minder.
Right.
Or they wanted somebody as a front man.
Right.
And what it is, you set a company up and you pay the full money that you owe. You don't owe nobody any money. You've got a good reputation and you build a reputation up with good companies.
Right.
And then you go in and you start to do a credit thing with them.
Right.
And then they give you credit and you've got all this kind of thing. And so, bang, the real deal comes out. You clear the warehouse.
Right.
You've got it already sold. And that's what a long firm is. It don't exist anymore.
Right.
Overnight it goes boom.
Right. So, but would it be sort of like electrical goods?
No, it would be the goods at the time. It could be furniture, it could be clothing, it could be electrical goods, televisions and all the rest of it.
Right, right.
No matter what it was. But you was always dealing, you built up slowly.
Right.
Until you could expand. And people trusted you with the goods. And
Chris is a good guy. He always pays on time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Let him have it.
Right,
you understand
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was what Long Firms was.
Yeah.
And then there was another good man I met called Richie Anderson. And what he did, he was a Scotsman, very good pal of Arthur Thompson's.
Yeah.
And I can still remember Arthur came down to London and to sort something out with Pat Connolly and the twins.
Right.
Walked straight into him. He didn't mess about, Arthur. And Richie said, I want you to stay with Arthur. And so myself and a guy called Peter Metcalf, we were with him. We weren't his minders. He could take care of himself.
Right.
I mean, literally ran Glasgow.
Right.
And we went down and nobody would say a word. And he did what he had to do, which was sort a problem out. He sorted it out. Got back on the. We went down to Southend-on-Sea.
Right.
I still remember him. This picture of him in my mind. His wife was called Little Rita.
Right.
And he had a what's the name? A handkerchief on his head, tied in knots. I used to do it in that.
That was old school, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's a proper old school. Paddling in the sea down at South End of the sea. It was we were just normal people.
Right.
But we had to get a living. We had to put bread on the table.
Right.
And yeah, that was it. So I got to know everybody.
Right.
And then I finished up with Eric Mason, and I was up in Liverpool. That's where my wife came from.
Right.
And Eric Mason rang me. He said, "Where else?" I said, "I'm up in Liverpool." He said, "Well, come over to Manchester." He said, "We've got things sorted here."
Right.
And we went over there and we stayed with the Clark brothers, the dancers.
Right.
Well, me and Tony had been out shooting rats with shotguns.
Right.
And so we got the shotguns out of the car. People saw it, and it went all over Manchester, the firm here.
Fucking them Lambrianos, they've got the shooters out.
No, they didn't know our name.
Oh, right.
You didn't. It weren't like the Krays. Oh, look, we're Mr. Big and we're this, that, and the other. Kept a very low profile.
Right.
Everybody knew, but nobody said nothing. And so, I mean, we really had an amazing time so we got to know some right top people and everything else like that. The clubs, we were made welcome everywhere. And we got into some little bits of business that were sensible. Gambling had just taken off.
Right.
And we were made welcome.
Yeah.
And we liked the girls especially because, they'd help us out.
Right.
When we played different games and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it was fun. And then we went to Blackpool. We met all the top stars. We were in all the shows and all that kind of thing. It was just the most amazing time.
And this was in, the early 60s?
Yeah, early 60s.
Wow.
Mixie Walsh and them, that were the top family up in Blackpool. Mixie Walsh, I'll always remember going round to his house. And there was all these tramps out in the garden. There was a kind of a shelter. Right. And there was a great big pot of stew going on.
Right.
And his mother used to feed all the poor people around the area.
Right.
That's the way it was in the old days. You looked after each other.
Right.
You didn't have a lot, but what you had, you shared.
Yeah.
And so, that was what was happening.
Right.
Well, the twins opened a club in Leicester, and they wanted to meet me. Now, so I go down there. I don't really want to meet them. They're not my kind of person. You understand?
Right.
And I go down and meet them. They're very polite. They, speak decently and that kind of thing. And they said, "We've opened a club in Leicester. And we know you know an awful lot of people in Birmingham that are gambling. And can you bring them over to our club? More the merrier."
Right.
Because if you know anything about gambling, it all goes down the middle.
Right.
You've got a slot in the middle. It all goes down there.
Right.
Each round they play, each game they play, the only winner is the club. It's like a betting shop.
Right.
And so, that was what it was about. And Mason knew everybody. He'd been to Dartmoor. He'd received the Birch and all the rest of it.
Right.
And he was kind of respected by everybody. And that was it. So, I got to meet everybody.
Right.
And I did bring people over to the Twins Club. They was happy and everything else like that.
Because obviously when you look at that period of time, there's obviously the myths, and obviously we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
But you wasn't part of their firm. You was your own firm.
I was my own firm, yeah.
Right, got it. But you worked
But
with
I was connected
them.
to so many firms. I mean, you mentioned Brian Emmett earlier on.
Right.
Well, it had just come up. But I knew his father very well.
Right.
And they were good people.
Right.
And he had a good friend of his, was somebody that kind of I knew quite well. And so there was connections all over the place.
Right. Right.
And these people, nobody, they say, oh, they got kicked out of Birmingham, got kicked out of Leicester. These people, the Futurals did it. The people were not interested in crime.
Right.
Like the Futural even turned around and said, Don Futural said, my daughter made the whole story up because her husband is a member of the, what do they call it, a journalist.
Right.
So it suited him to make a story up about the Krays.
Right.
The Krays had never been to Birmingham. They'd never been to Manchester.
Right.
Never been to Liverpool.
Right.
You understand? But we had. Because we, like I said before, we had done time.
Right.
From youngsters to, we went to university eventually and met all the top people. So that's the way it was.
Right.
And like the Twins, I mean, a lot of people didn't want to work with them.
Right.
Because they were too dangerous. I mean, Reggie lost his wife. He was in a mess. He was taking speed and he was drinking gin like there was no tomorrow. Ronnie wasn't taking his tablets that he should have been taking, that kept him sane. He was off the sheet as well. You don't walk into a pub, any of the faces will tell you, and blow somebody away. You're not going to get away with it. Never mind that there was no cameras in them days. No, but there were lots of eyes.
Right.
And they let everybody know what they'd done. And then told them to keep their mouth shut. And finally, at the end of the day, they say to people like Albert Donaghy, who was very staunch to them, you take the Cornell murder. Well, what about Albert Donaghy's children? What about his wife? They didn't have no children.
I mean, that was it, wasn't it? I mean, it's just throwing people under a bus, isn't it?
That's right. You know, and he was offered a deal and he took it. We were offered a deal, we didn't take it.
Right.
We stood in the dock for the longest murder trial in history. But one thing we don't do, point our finger at anybody. That was the law we came up with. That's from the University of Crime. That is from all the other things that we understood. Tony, my younger brother, Stum, you understand? Ronnie Bender, 3 children. He was not a murderer. Tony wasn't a murderer. They were good guys. They were strong guys.
Right.
They knew how to hold the thing together. But the Krays, they were into families. Ronnie Bender and his brother, me and my brother. You had to go right the way through the firm. Ian Barry, lovely man. What was Ian Barry? Ian Barry got a life and 20 years. Ian Barry did nothing.
Right.
He thought it was a fright and went in, fired into the ceiling. He didn't know Ronnie Kray was going to go in and blow him away.
Wow.
He thought it was a frightener.
Right.
But, you know, this was the kind of thing.
And when that murder took place, when obviously Reggie lost the plot, was Ronnie there as well?
Ronnie was there as well,
right,
yeah.
Because he encouraged him, didn't he, to do it?
Look, we went there with the 2 Mills brothers, who the twins had never met. At the Regency, I want to go to the West End where the birds are.
Right.
And have some fun. Because there was some real, you know, Leicester Square, there was some nice places down there. And, but they didn't want to go.
Right.
Tony said, well, let's go to the Regency. I'd never been there. When we get to the Regency, we're having a drink. The next thing, there's an invitation to a party. Jack came over to me and said, are you going to this party? I said, yeah. We all got, I couldn't get my car out, so we got in Jack's car.
Right.
And we go around to Blonde Carroll's. When we get down there, we all go running in. There's all these people there. Jack comes running in, where's the party? Then an argument starts between Jack and Reggie. The next thing you know, it kicks off. I didn't go down there for that. I didn't want to know. And I got quite choked up about it. And Ronnie came out and said, what's the matter with Chris? And Connie White had turned around and said, he said he didn't come down here for this. And Ronnie said, we'll drop him off home.
Right.
I go home and I think to myself, I hope nothing happens to Tony. So I got a shooter. I had a Webley, a Webley 38, fully loaded, and I went back to the house. Knocked on the door, Ronnie Bender came up, and I said, Ron, is Tony down there? He said, no. I went to turn away, he said, don't leave me. I went, what do you mean, don't leave you? He said, I said, where's Tony? He said, he's not here. I said, where's the twins? He said, they've run away. I said, well, what's the problem? He said, they've killed him. I said, no, not in front of all them people. Wow. That's not what people do. I said, well, and what's, he said, he's downstairs. I said, what's your instructions? Well, I'm to take him and throw him over the railway bridge so a train can mash him up.
Right.
And that kind of thing. Because where the house was, about 100 yards away on a hill was a train station. Right. A train.
Track thing, whatever.
Yeah, and throw him out on the track. But he had no idea what to do, Ronnie Bender. He was a straight man, ex-soldier. So I went downstairs, looked around, found some socks, told him to put them on. I put some on, and we had a clean up and did that. And then there was a knock on the door. and it's Tony. Because I've come to look for him. He's got home to my dad, and my dad said, Tony, he's looking for you. So he came back. By that time, I've got my card at the Regency. I'm back at Ronnie Bender's. Back at Ron Carroll's. And the next thing you know is he's involved as well. We've had to get the body out of the car now. My reasoning is this. We get the body in the car, we're taking it over South London. The reason being, whatever happened in South London. It didn't happen in the East End.
Right.
So that would throw them right off the scent. So we follow Tony down and we go through the tunnel, come out the other side, but we lose him. Driving around, we finally find the car. It's outside a church. And Tony's looking for us around. Anyway, what happened with Tony, he got in the car, and Ronnie Bender, I'm driving in my car then, and we come back over East London, drop Ronnie off. But what I don't know, Ronnie rings up Charlie Kray, tells him what's happened. Charlie Kray rings Ronnie and Reggie. Ronnie and Reggie, apparently, so rumour has it, and I don't know the truth of it, but the twins got hold of Freddie Foreman. Right on his patch it was. Freddie Foreman was one of them people you didn't know nothing about.
Right.
He kept himself very private. He didn't let himself be known everywhere. And he was sensible. But they called on him any time they were in some trouble.
Right.
And he helped them out. And that time, that night, they rang him. And I don't know what happened after that. I wasn't there. I wasn't witness to anything. But rumour has it, or they say, that he took him away and did whatever he did to lose the body.
Did they'd never found the body though, did they?
They never have found the body, no. And Fred has never really admitted it. You understand what I mean? Because when we're all standing in the dock at the Old Bailey, at Bow Street Magistrates Court, and he's there, I think, who is he?
Right.
I've never seen him before in my life.
It must have been like a fucking hot potato, but instead of a potato, it was a dead body.
That's right.
Take it.
But that was it. I mean,
Right.
what sensible people do things like that, kill somebody, and then tell a guy who had no part in the murder, take the body, put it over your shoulder. There's a kebab shop a bagel shop across the road. Taxis pulling up all the time to get the bagels.
Yeah.
And he's got to put the body over his shoulder, walk him up to the railway bridge and hump him over.
And everything would be okay.
Everything will be sorted. It's okay for them. They've run away to the country.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. I mean, the way you put it across there, Chris, it is fucking insane. Like,
Well, it is.
It's just insane.
Ronnie Bender has got 3 boys. He loved them to pieces. And his wife, Buddy, he adored her. He went away to life in 20 years.
Wow.
My brother Tony's got 2 children. He went away for 15. I've got a daughter, she's 17 months old. I went away for 15.
Wow.
I never saw my daughter for 15 bloody years.
It's a long time.
Yeah, a long time. I didn't put her first.
Right.
We didn't put our children first. We didn't put the Krays first. We put the code of the underworld first.
Right.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
And what, I mean, when they nicked you, what did they say?
They brought me down from Birmingham. And coming down from Birmingham, I said to the police, well, what have you arrested me for? They said, fucking virgins out of season. I went, what?
Did you say guilty or not?
I couldn't make a stupid thing like that.
Right.
And we come down London, instead of going to Scotland Yard, which is down the Mall, or whatever it is, Whitehall, they went across the bridge and took me to a place called Tintagel House. When I get up there, I get in the office, it's Nipper Reid. Hello, he said, we didn't know you were involved. But we checked on everything and we finally found you. Now, listen, I'm offering you something, and I stand by this. You did not know what was going to happen. And I really believe that. He said, tell us what happened, and neither you nor any of your family will be sent away. He said, I'm giving you a warning. He gave me his card and everything else like that.
Right.
It was totally genuine. He meant
Right.
it. He said, you had nothing to do with the murder. You never laid a finger on him or anything else. We know you left. Why? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. That's the way it went.
Right.
And I went round all of them and turned round and told them. But I came out of there and I went straight away and I saw Violet Kray at Bun Hill Road and told her what was happening, what I'd seen on the blackboards, all the photographs and everything else. And she said to me, Chris, she said, all their friends have deserted them. She said, thank you so much for coming and telling me about it. But please, she said, will you please come and see him? I said, Violet, it's the worst thing I could do. I can't go. Please, she said, you must come. Nobody else knows what you know. Their friends don't care anymore. They're away. And I heard a mother's cry. I'd not long lost my mum. And I felt duty bound to listen to that lady. And she was an innocent as well, you understand. And I went with her and Charlie, old man Charlie, and Carol, Reggie's girlfriend. And we'd gone to Brixton, signed my name in Mickey Mouse, as you do. And
Did you go over the years?
And Charlie looked at me and went, like, shouldn't be here, Chris. Shouldn't be here. The twins all over. Chris, great to see you. You know what I mean? Thanks for coming up and all the rest of it. And so I told them what I'd seen. I then had the visits over. Cheers, thanks a lot. Keep in touch and all the rest of it. And I leave Brixton with Charlie, Violet, and Carol. I drop them off back to Bun Hill Road and I go away. 2 weeks later, Nipper Reid brings me down from Birmingham, the firm. I mean, they stopped me with shooters and everything down by the elbow room, and took me down to London, Tintagel House again. And Nipper Reid said to me, you've been to see him in Brixton, haven't you? And he said, why? I said, I just went to say hello. He said, but you were with Violet Kray and all that kind of thing. He said, are you prepared to talk to me? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's playing with a shooter on the table. And he come round the table and he whacked me right over there with it. And I thought, I'm not going to react to that because you've got nothing on me. But if I hit you now, you're going to arrest me for attacking you. I knew it was set up because there was a guy called Cater, another policeman in there, Inspector Cater, and there was another officer in there, 3 of them. And he said to Cater, charge him with murder.
Wow.
And that's exactly. And truthfully, Terry, I didn't do that.
And what? And obviously, when you went to court, obviously, like you said, it was a high-profile murder charge. It was the Krays, and they was obviously big celebrities at the time.
Yeah.
Do you think that because of their stardom, right, in the press and in the underworld, that because you was sort of associated with them, you were going to get regardless?
But that's it. That's exactly it.
Right.
We were going down. It was them they wanted, but if you were associated with them, you were going down.
Right. But the mad thing for me, talking to you, Chris, is that like you said, you weren't really anything to fucking do with them.
Nothing to do with them.
That's excuse me. The mad thing is, like, lots of people would always be like, yeah, it was the Lambrianos, the Krays, the this,
right,
that. But the fact that you're actually putting it out there now, that you was nothing to do with them. I mean, you must have fucking rued the day that they said, why don't you come to the bar?
But to be honest with you, originally they asked me something sensible.
Right.
You know, to bring people over to a club.
Right.
But then when I used to come down to London to see my dad every 2 weeks, because we lost my mum,
right,
and I wanted to be there for him, we used to go out for a drink, and we'd go down to the Widows,
wow,
or maybe go to another pub and have a drink, and they'd be there. But they always acted sensible. They're respectful. There was no swearing or aggression or anything else like that.
And one thing I wanted to ask you was, when you was in this court case,
Yeah.
did your lawyer say to you, look, you've not done anything here, or did you go guilty or not guilty?
No, we're not guilty all the way through.
And what did he think? Did he sort of say you're going to get...
No, he never said nothing.
Oh, so he thought you was going to get off.
Because what we did, to keep it all solid, we were all had the same lawyers as the Krays.
Right.
Ralph Imes was our brief.
Right.
And it was crazy, to be honest with you. We could have turned round and held our hands up and walked away. Right, there was an argument there. We weren't there when we left when the argument started, or whatever. They could have turned around and said, "Yeah, somebody did it. We don't know who did it, but we'd left as well." But it was no, we're not there.
Right.
So really, we stood there in front of the firing squad for them to shoot us down.
Wow.
And they did. They blew us away.
And how long did you do out of 15? Was it?
I did the full 15.
Fucking hell. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah. You want to go into hell? I've been there.
Wow.
That's how is this man.
Right.
But the other thing before I finish, they had already planned things.
Right.
They had John Pearson writing their book,
Right.
Profession of Violence,
Yeah.
all that kind of. It was all about them.
Right.
They just want it to be Al Capone of Britain. They want it to be Legs Diamond,
Right.
all that. And Britain wanted. That's all people. The only films people watched in England was American gangster films,
Right.
American love stories, and that kind of thing. And eventually, Britain got their own.
Right.
The press loved it. You understand what I'm saying? You know?
And when you went into jail, right, when they said you're guilty and you got that 15 years of bird, what went through your head? Was you just like, literally, I wish I'd never fucking met these people? Or did you just think...
No. I wish I'd never met them. It's just madness, what happened. It's not something you can be proud of.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Oh, I got arrested with the Krays and kind of,
Well, it's probably a good story to tell people over dinner, but when you've actually done the 15 years in jail,
well, let me tell you
there's
something.
no fun there.
I was in with the train robbers. I was in with all the top people, bank robbers, everything else. And we were in a thing called Durham E-Wing, where 10 of us were in there. Then we went to Submarine, which was Leicester Security Wing. Then there was Chelmsford and there was Parkhurst on the Isle of Wight, where the top wings, and there were 10 men in each of them wing, considered to be the most dangerous prisoners in England. And the chief prison officer at Durham said to me, and then put it in the paper, he said, "We believe these people are so bloody dangerous, they could get a chieftain tank and come through the walls to help their men escape." That was their mentality.
Wow.
You know,
Did you know anybody with a chieftain tank, Chris?
Yeah, that's right. That's what he said. And that was in the Daily Mirror.
Wow.
But enough about me.
Yeah.
I now want to come to a man who really can tell you something.
Right.
And
He's been sitting there very quiet,
this is man Steve. He is a very quiet man, but he's a thinker.
Right.
Don't take his quietness for being stupid.
So what have you been thinking about, Steve, listening to Chris's...
Well, I actually...
I mean, you obviously know it, but...
Yeah, I mean, I've known Chris for a number of years now, probably 25 years.
Wow.
If not a little bit longer.
A lot longer than that.
Well, it may be, yeah. It's been a long, long time, a big journey with myself and Chris.
Yeah.
I've just been thinking, the amount of time that Chris got for that, and I have always thought that was a kind of setup. At the end of the day, they didn't want just them at the end because people wasn't playing ball with them.
Right.
You're with them, you're going. And listening to what Chris is saying now and been saying, it was very clear to me all along that, he may not have been involved in a lot of that kind of stuff, but no matter what, because of his association, his association created the problem for him, And
I suppose his people at the party, they were probably saying, oh, yeah, Chris was there, Tony was there, the Krays were there.
Yeah.
So, they can put you there and then.
Well, they put you in the frame, don't they?
I think the biggest lesson for anybody listening or watching this podcast from what happened to you, Chris, is be careful of the company you keep. Because if somebody says to you, oh, I'm going to go and pick up some drugs.
Yeah.
Jump in the car, you know, blah, blah. And you go, yeah, I'll jump in the car. And you get pulled over and they've got a bag of fucking drugs.
That's right.
You're going to jail.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter.
And
It's just the association.
I think people don't, it's all a laugh and it's all a, you know, and like yourself, you was going there for the girls in the party.
Yeah.
You know, but then something happens and because you're there and, you know, they've seen you with them or people that said you're with them or whatever, you've brought some people to the club, all of a sudden you're their partners.
But not only you or your partner, your whole family going to jail.
Right.
My brother Nicky was arrested. You know, Jimmy was arrested. So, you know, 4 of my family were in. My dad had to visit every prison in the country. My family suffered.
Right.
You understand, through my stupidity.
Right.
But let me tell you another thing. My story is a story.
Right.
But this man's story is another one.
Right.
And Terry, you've got to let him do it. Let him say it.
Well, I love to hear it, Steve. Love to hear it.
Well, I mean, for me, I'll tell you a little bit about where I started, right? Yeah. You know, I mean, I was brought up by my nan and granddad. I got left on my nan and granddad's doorstep when I was 11 months old by my mother. My father was a pisshead. He was, you know, always drunk and whatever. So I suppose one of the ways to get away from him was to get away from me. So for her to put me with my nan and granddad on his side was the answer to actually getting rid of him.
Right.
But I don't think it worked that way. My dad was a very very possessive man, you know, very jealous. A lot of the traits that he ended up with, I ended up with,
right.
You know, and I could never really understand it. But part of that was that, you know, when I was living with my nan and granddad, I used to go to school just up the road. When I was in that junior school in the very beginning, you know, you find that kids are very, very nasty. They can be really horrible to you.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have a mum and dad, it used to start there, right? Oh yeah, you ain't got a mum and dad, have you? You know, and the things like, you know, you get free dinners, you know, you go to school and you got holes in your shoes and you got lumps of cardboard covering them up in the bottom. So, you know, you walk around, you go to school with a couple of pence pocket money and a roll, you know, and then, you know, you're in a situation, right, where the bully of the school decides it's a good idea to pick on me.
Right.
Well, it went on for quite a while, you know, that I was getting bullied, pushed around and stuff like that. Until one day I decided that, you know, that ain't going to happen anymore. You know, so this particular day he came up, give me your pocket money, give me your roll and this, that and the other. And I said to him, no, fuck off. And that was exactly what I said. And I was probably about 7 or 8 at that time. Fuck off. You're not having it. And we ended up having a fight in the playground, and I beat absolute shit out of him. It must have been so much anger that had grown up over the period of time where he was bullying me that when I lost it, I lost it. And I found afterwards that after I'd done that, because I'd done that to the bully, strangely enough, I started having loads of friends.
Right.
You know, I was very popular. And you know, I noticed these things going on, so I just played the game. You know, I thought for as long as I can keep them there, they're away from me. They can leave me alone. You know, I won't have to put up with it. But you know, as that went on, you know, we ended up at that particular time I was living in Lambeth, South London, and you know, there was all the old bomb sites and shelters all around there. Me and the boys and that used to go and have a play around out there and all this, you know. So I felt very much like I'd grown up a bit, and I had some friends. But then we ended up that because the houses are a bit like slums and stuff back then, we ended up moving out of there and moving to a place called Carshalton.
Yeah.
And most of our family got split up. You know, some were in Brixton, some in Clapham. We were in Carshalton, and another one of the family was in Carshalton, another one in, I think it was Northamptonshire. Right. So the whole of the family was all split up. And And anyway, I go to this school in Carshalton, and exactly the same happened again as what happened before. It was a new school. I'd gone to my secondary school and found myself in a very much similar kind of situation as before. And, you know, I thought, well, I know how to deal with this. And I'd done exactly the same as what I did before to get them away from me. Then I became a kind of rebel. You know, I started wearing hobnail boots to school and leather jackets when you're supposed to be wearing, you know, a decent pair of shoes and stuff like that.
Hobnail boots are good for the bullies, though, right?
Yeah. No, I was making a statement. I was basically saying, "Go fuck you. I ain't. You know, you're not playing with me."
Yeah.
And you know, I got myself into all these kinds of situations where I started bullying others.
Right.
And wasn't something that I was proud of. But unfortunately, that's where I felt safe. I felt safe that nobody could infiltrate me. They couldn't, you know. Anyway, I ended up, I get expelled from school and stuff like that. And at that particular time, you know, I was actually started to be put on tranquilizers because my nan and granddad couldn't cope with me.
Wow.
So, you know, at the age of sort of like 14.
I've never heard of that before.
13 or 14, I was put on tranquilizers. I was put on Valium. Right at that particular time, and I think it was 10 milligrams 3 times twice a day. So that was quite a lot of Valium actually. But that was back to sort of like calm me down because something was going on.
Did it help or not?
I don't know that it helped a lot, but what happened at one stage, my father used to go out on the piss, and he used to come round to my grandmother's on a Sunday for his dinner, and he would usually be pissed. Well, when he came round one Sunday, he came round and he was pissed and his dinner was cold. And basically, he smashed it over my grandmother's head in front of me. And back in those days, you had the old enamel pal bucket, you know, and that was half full of blood, which had come pouring out of my grandmother's head. And I'm standing there looking, shaking.
Right.
And you know, and all of this kind of stuff. And what my gran and granddad used to always tell me, you know, don't get on the wrong side of your father. Your father's a nutcase, you know, and this, that and everything else. But whenever I got myself into a situation like when I got expelled from school, I'm going to tell your dad's going to come round here. And if you don't start doing it as you're told, we're going to get you put into a home and all this kind of stuff. So I wasn't sure where I was. And then what happened was I started getting farmed out at weekends to other relatives. So all of a sudden I found myself in a position, right, where I had other people like my nan and granddad who were being a bit like authority mother and father figures, which was my dad's brothers and sisters. But they all had different rules. And I wasn't sure what rule I should be following or where I should be. And I think they all tried their best to sort of get me into a good place. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. You know, I just carried on being the rebel that I was and carried on doing the things. My gran used to say, "Oh, that's not my Stevie." They wouldn't do that, but she didn't seem to realise that it was basically me that was leading the others, not them leading me. You know, it was me that was in that situation that I was kind of a bit like the outcast.
Well, when you saw your dad do that to your grandmother, bearing in mind she's really like a mother to you.
Yeah.
Did you actually want to like seriously hurt him? Because I think if that had been me, that would have got into my head that I wanted to, you know, absolutely do something.
To be honest with you, I was just petrified. There was so much blood. I just wondered whether she was going to die. I just completely freaked out. I mean, there was another time, right, that I had a couple of friends of mine. One of my mates, I had ever since I was a child, you know, Paul his name was, and you know, me and Paul were like that. But his cousin came down one bank holiday time, and he ended up, me and Paul had an argument, and his cousin was there, and we fell out with each other. And the next thing is there hasn't been a fight, but I've got upset and I've gone home crying. Well, when I've gone home crying, the biggest mistake for me was my dad was there. Right, you know, and I said, I've fallen out, you know, we've had a little bit of a push about, but not real fighting. So my dad said to me, he said, right, okay, go out in the back garden and get yourself a stick. I said, why? He said, just do as I'm telling you. So off I go, I'll go and get a stick. Go back to him, he says, right, where are they? I said, I don't know. I said, he's down the road. Well, let's go down the road, he said. So he made me go down there. And on the way down there, he said, you're going to hit them with that stick. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're going to bash them with that stick for, you know. So I said, I don't want to do that. He said, well, if you don't bash them, I f***ing will. I'll bash you with it. In other words, you will do as I'm telling you. And basically, that's what I did, and that's what I had to do, you know, because I was so afraid.
Wow.
You know, there were times that I went round to see him on a Sunday or a Saturday when, you know, he'd been out had a few beers, down the betting shop and everything like that, and he was on the phone to a television company called Radio Rental.
Remember that?
He couldn't watch the racing. Right, and the telly had broke. So he gets on the phone, because I was standing there, you know, where he was, and he was on the phone with them. And he said, you got two chances, mate. He said, either come round and fix my telly now. He said, because if you ain't here in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to throw it out the fucking window. And I thought, I didn't think anything. I thought, okay. The next thing is that 15 minutes has gone by. He's thrown the fucking telly straight out the window on the 3rd floor, straight in the middle of the road. You know,
hit somebody.
Yeah, could have done, but you know, but at the end of the day,
he went mental at Radio Rental.
Yeah, It was one of those ones you used to have to put the coins in the back and turn.
I remember, you run out of the fucking thing.
Yeah. We didn't have a television we could throw out the window.
Yeah.
We had accumulators.
It was kind of crazy. I didn't know what to do.
Wow.
So anyway, that was it. I decided I wasn't going to see him anymore. The only time I actually saw him again was at a funeral when my uncle died.
Wow.
But between now and then, I've actually gone to a stage now where I'm drinking as well as using those Valium. I'm still on them at around about, 15, 16. I'm in the pubs at 16, drinking and everything like that.
And for anybody watching this or listening to this, that, for you, you must have felt lost because you haven't got a mum and dad. Your dad's basically,
fucking nutcase.
Yeah, but yeah, he's not giving you any fatherly advice.
Well, he don't fit in, does he, anyway?
That's the problem. I'm not fitting in.
And what you probably needed then was really someone to put their arm around you and go, look, we love you, let's fucking work together and actually give you some advice rather than leading you up the wrong path.
Right.
Well, don't you think a lot of kids need that today?
100%.
I think...
we live in a throwaway society.
Yeah.
They throw their wives away, they throw their girlfriends away, and the young kid is sitting there and he's in a war zone. Never mind about in like Yemen or wherever, but in his own home, he's sitting there and he, don't if he's frightened. Where's my future? They're my future. They're leading me into the future,
Right.
and they deserted me.
Whether it's a gang or whether it's bad parenting, if you're not getting pointed in the right direction, and as a kid, I mean, if you're on all these Valiums, I mean, it must have made you wonder what the fuck.
Worse, yeah.
Yeah. Look,
Like it says, you get all these rules.
I'll
but,
be honest with you, right? That I can't fault my family.
Right.
The only person I can actually fault is my father.
Right.
Right. I can't fault the rest of them. They
Did you ever
did
meet your mum?
everything.
Did you ever meet your mum?
Everything they possibly could. No, I've never seen my mother.
Wow.
Right. My granddad at one stage, I got banned. Well, as I say, I told you I got expelled from school. He chased me around the house with a carving knife.
Right.
I was about 16 at that particular time. And what I actually did is through my fear, I hit him.
Right.
Right. I didn't want to hit him, but he was chasing me with a carving knife, saying, I'm going to kill you, you little bastard. Right.
I could just imagine that.
But I was a little bastard. I have no doubt about it. I was one of the most horriblest little
Do you think he was actually going to stick you with it, or do you think he was just doing it to scare you?
It was enough to frighten me to think that he was.
Right, got it.
Right,
Got it.
and I lashed out. I lashed out through fear. I didn't lash out because he's got a knife.
Right.
I didn't lash out because I don't know whether I can run faster than him. You know what I mean? It was just through pure fear. With the kind of stuff that's been going on in my life, the things that I've heard and stuff like that, I didn't fit in anywhere.
Right.
So now I needed to find somewhere where I fitted in. Then I started mixing with a few people, some of them normally older than myself, doing things, like getting involved in doing things like smash and grab, jeweller shops, robbing places like that. My good part really was that I was a good thief when it came to nicking cars, and I was actually quite a good driver at that particular time. So people used to want me for that particular, I've got something I want you to do, get a car, drive us, and I'd do that kind of stuff. And then it went on to, whilst I was doing that, I was drinking more, and I was actually starting to take drugs. And I always knew that there was something missing in my life, but it wasn't until I got to rehab that I found it.
Right.
So I'm not going to tell you that now.
No, but wait,
It's too
we're leading
early.
up to
It's
it,
too early.
Stevie, baby.
Right, so I end up getting involved with a crowd of guys that are selling drugs.
Right.
In big quantities.
Was it all drugs?
All drugs.
Right, okay.
You're talking about amphetamine was my best one. Right. But I used to sell sleepers, dope, LSD, morphine, heroin. I was actually on methadone for 5 years, which is one of the worst drugs that anybody can be on because it is so addictive mentally.
Someone told me that, do they use that to wean you off?
It's a nonsense. I mean, that is a
because I don't know.
No,
what
I know.
difference
But a
is,
lot of
but it'd be
people
lovely
say
to-
that because what they say methadone is they say that we're going to put you on a methadone reduction script. They never ever reduce people off a methadone. They do it to keep you where you are. They you pick it up on a daily basis from the chemist, right? All of the people that are on methadone go to the same chemist. So basically, you're captured. You might as well be in prison. Right?
If you look at heroin and methadone as two drugs,
Yeah?
is it exactly the same?
No.
Right.
If I was on heroin, I could be clear of heroin within probably 14 to 21 days.
Right.
Right? But physically I could be, but mentally I wouldn't be.
Right.
Right? With methadone, it is very different. You become mentally addicted to it very, very quickly, and you believe that if you stop taking it or you can't get it, you'll die without it.
Wow.
Right? That is a fact. I know because I took it for 5 years. Right? And everybody, I mean, if I ever got in any trouble or the police were looking for me, they know exactly where to find me. Right? You couldn't go on holiday. You couldn't do anything. You were actually stuck. You might as well be wearing a tag
Right.
on your ankle, right, for them to be following you, because that's what it does. It puts you in one place.
And did you, because you were selling drugs,
Yeah.
and you started taking them, what did you start off with? Was it just like having a puff, or did you go
No,
straight in?
I started off, in actual fact, I started off on amphetamines because basically when I was continued to keep taking the Valium and stuff like that, that was making me a bit dopey. And when I was drinking and, it's just... But when I actually started taking things like speed, I actually felt energised. I felt better about myself. Made me feel as if someone had lifted a cloud. Yeah, someone had lifted the cloud over my head, right? And basically, I was in a situation where whenever I took any of that kind of stuff, I actually felt better about myself, even though realistically I wasn't.
So it was like a crutch that just
Yeah, it became a crutch. Basically, I'm going to tell you about the bit that's important to me, really, or what was important.
Right.
And I only found it when I went for rehab. It was about what I was looking for. And what I was actually looking for is I was looking for a mother figure.
Right.
I was looking for someone to love me, like you said earlier, right? And basically, all my relationships, I would rush into a relationship. I've been married 4 times. Right. I've got, 5 kids. You know what I mean? So, but none of those relationships lasted very long.
Right.
A lot of them were probably to do with the fact that the kind of relationship I had with most of them, right, was drug related.
Right.
But there were others that wasn't drug related that lasted much longer. And those were the ones that were trying to straighten me up. And those were the ones who were being, much more loving, trying to understand my madness that was going on, and that's purely what it was.
And did you, when you talked about your addiction, was you like a full blown addict?
Yes. Oh yeah. Eventually, yeah.
And that was on.
No, I was using methadone. I was using morphine.
Right.
Injectable. All my stuff at the end of the day were all injectables. I injected all of the drugs, even if it was amphetamines. I used occasionally a bit of dope and stuff like that. Used to make me paranoid a lot of the time.
Right.
So, it wasn't something that I'd always use. I think the fact is even though we're going back, quite a few years now, even then they were experimenting with things that they put into some of the, dope at that particular time. I mean, you used to get something like Nepalese temple bull. You'd get some grass, which was really, really powerful. There was still times at that then in all of this stuff.
Right.
And my cocktails and mixing up with all things. I used to take tablets to get up, and I used to take tablets to go to sleep.
Wow.
And whether I actually fixed them or not, didn't really matter.
I mean, Steve was talking about drugs. I mean, smoking stuff. There was Picky Black.
Yeah.
If you took Picky Black, believe me,
You knew where you
paranoia
were,
was
yeah.
horrendous.
Yeah.
But if you took Apicalco Gold,
Right.
it was like
Yeah.
a breath of fresh air.
Right.
Yeah.
That
That was
the
the yellow
differences.
stuff.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so anyway, that was all this stuff was going on.
And when you was doing this stuff, and you was still obviously actively doing
Participating in selling drugs and everything, yeah.
And you must have had some mad stories.
I've got some very good stories to tell you. I mean, there was a time, right, that I was with the main man, and he was in a situation that he was owed money. And he said to me, he said, "Oh, come with me, Steve." He said, "I'll go and collect some money." And I said, "Oh, okay." So off we go. We're driving about in the car. He said, "That's the house there." He said, "I'm going to go over and knock." He said, "I don't expect them to open the door." He said, "Because they never open the door because they owe me so much money." I said, "All right, okay." So I sat in the car while he went across there. He said, "If I want you, I'll call you." So anyway, no one answered the door, as he said. Next thing, gets back in the car and he says to me, he said, "I'm going to set light to that house tonight." I said, "What?"
All right, now listen up. These days, privacy's rare. Real security, even rarer. When you're operating at a high level, whether that's business, family, travel, or public profile, you need more than just a bloke standing by a door with an earpiece. You need people who understand risk properly, quietly, professionally, without turning your life upside down. That's where Bradbury's Group comes in. They provide high-end security and risk management support for high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, family offices, and people operating in complex environments where privacy, control, and protection actually matter. We're talking everything from personal protection officers and security drivers through to estate security, counter surveillance, incident response, private travel, concierge support, even super yacht and event security management. Just experienced professionals delivering the right level of support exactly when it's needed. Whether it's long-term protection, discreet advisory services, or rapid response in a changing situation. Bradbury's Group are built to adapt and operate properly, security that protects without disrupting your lifestyle. Go check their website out via the link in the description below.
I said, "Has he got family?" He said, "Yeah, he's got a wife and he's got a kid." He said, "On the set light to his house." I said, You can't do that." He said, "I fucking can." He said, "Because the situation I'm in is I need to return the money to the man above me, and he ain't going to take no messing. The same as when you have stuff off of me, I'm not going to take any messing, So we went on to somewhere else, all the same kind of stuff, where people had owed him money and was outstanding and he was going to collect it. The issue with me and Ricky when he ended up, when I'd gone to Amsterdam and he had done a run in my car, in Battersea in actual fact it was, and he used my car, dressed the same as me, had all the medallions and all this crap. So he did the deal. What happened was it went back to the main man that the stuff had been cut badly. It wasn't even 25%.
Wow.
Well, when we got stuff, we were looking at 75% proof. Now, that's very good.
Right.
You know, and it was 25%. That's what went back to the main man. He says, you know, you got to go and sort this out, to my boss, basically, my man in the chain. I'm not using his name for a couple of reasons.
Right.
One is that I don't know whether he's still alive or whether he isn't. And he actually ended up doing 15 years. So I don't really want to publicise people who are not around. Or
Right.
Ricky, I can say Ricky because Ricky's dead.
Right, okay.
Right, because basically the situation is he did actually, when he told me he was going to kill him, he meant it, and he did. He was, you know, Ricky was the man who was the guy who created all the problems. But I also ended up, at that particular time, getting stabbed up and hit over the head with a club hammer, you know, £2 club hammer. I run out of the back door after just having a hit, after I got this stabbing, went out into the back door of this house, run a couple of doors along and run straight through a pane glass window, like patio doors, but I will run straight through it into this person's house. So I'm dripping with blood where, you know, because then the shatterproof glass with the little square bits and bits stuck in me, you know. I ended up having to go to the hospital.
Whose house was this? Just some random person's house?
Yeah,
Can
random.
you imagine, were they indoors?
Yeah, they was
just
indoors.
imagine, like, there's a fucking
It was
crazy man,
them.
my
It
friend-
was them that called the police and the
Wow.
ambulance.
Wow.
Right? I believe if they hadn't called the police and the ambulance, I might have got caught up and I might not be here today. I mean, it was
But what was the stabbing over? Was that...
it was over the job that was done in Battersea.
Right.
Right? They came to the place where me and Ricky was doing a deal with somebody. Somehow they knew that where we were doing it. They've turned up, him and his brother-in-law, right? Went to steam into me more so than Ricky because they believed it was me that did it,
Right.
right? Ricky's got away, you know, free and easy. I'm the ones who's got stabbed and bashed over the head and end up in hospital. And Ricky's gone off. And then this is when they have decided it's a good idea to go and pick up my girlfriend who I was in Amsterdam with to find out exactly where I was. And it was actually true that I was in Amsterdam. So it couldn't have been me delivering. And I'd already said that it wasn't me.
So when these guys kidnapped your girlfriend at the time?
Yeah, kidnapped the girlfriend.
What
yeah.
did they do to her? Or was it just literally like...
No, they
didn't torture her, it
kept
just
her. No,
picked her
they
up?
kept her right at the house, fed her with drugs, amphetamines, and stuff like that. You know, so they talk away, and basically asked her the questions about where she'd been, who she'd been with, asked them questions about me and everything. She answered all the questions, and the answer to the questions were exactly the same as what I'd already told him before I even got stabbed.
Right.
So basically, he'd heard what the story was, but he didn't believe it, so he just carried on and done what he wanted to do, prove a point.
And did he then threaten to kill Ricky or Ricky?
Oh, and then after, you know, he'd done the damage to me, he rings me up and wants me to go and see him. And I said to him, you know, maybe you must be joking, you nearly killed me last week.
I've already seen you once and I'll see you again. Yeah.
He said, no, he said, I want you to come over. He said, I want to talk to you. I said, well, what do you want to talk to me about? Talk to me about it. He said, I don't want to talk over the phone, you know. So anyway, it ends up, I agree. I don't know where the lunacy come by that. I just said, oh, well, I'll come and see you. So I goes over there, goes to the front door, comes out, he's got a fag paper rolled up with, you know, either speed or something, and I think it was amphetamines. He went, oh, here. I looked at him, I said, what? He said, don't you want this? I said, well, what is it? He said, oh, just take it, you'll be all right. And, you know, being a junkie myself, you know, it right into me, oh yeah, guess it, you know. Anyway, I goes in, the next thing is, my girlfriend's sitting over there in that chair. So I said to him, well, what's going on? So he told me what he'd been doing and everything else, you know, kept her there until such times that I came and checked out and then it's when he said to me, I am going to kill him. And that is the time that I saw these eyes, the blackness of their eyes, just, it was massive. Now, you know, I know for a fact when people take drugs, their eyes change.
Right.
But this was pure anger I saw in his eyes. So I'm going to kill him. He'd obviously been messing about with his wife as well, which he found out. So he wasn't very happy about that either. And that's exactly what he did. So he's gone out, he's found him, he's killed him.
How did he kill him? Did he shoot him or?
No, he put a dog choke lead around his neck and strangled him to death.
I mean, it sounds like a movie scene. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, I mean, it's just, it's just
I
crazy.
mean, seriously, it's just... And then he puts him in the boot of the car and goes around parading to people.
It's
Right?
kind of terrifying.
It's just f***ing, like insane. This guy's done this.
I'm telling you, he was insane. There's no doubt about
so
it.
he'd pull up and say, look, you're a bit fucking short this week.
Yeah.
This is what happens if you don't fucking pay. And the geezer's in the back with the fucking...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he came round to me, but he didn't. Well, he came round to show me that Ricky was dead.
Right. That was nice
Right.
of him to share that with you. I bet he
Yeah,
was like,
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, but he was still in. Well, me and him were okay
wow.
because he knew it wasn't me. It wasn't me who stitched him up. It wasn't me who pulled a wrong one on him.
How long did he have the dead body in the car for?
Weeks.
Wow.
And I
mean,
don't
it's just
know.
like it's gonna-
I don't know how it's been in there for weeks because obviously Ricky didn't live with anybody. He lived on his own, right?
I mean, but I mean, for you, Chris, right? Obviously, if there's a dead body in your poo, you wouldn't want it in there very long,
It
just in
stink,
case
Paul.
you got pulled
Well,
over.
Yeah,
Do you want to
but
carry
the
a dead
stink-
body over your shoulder and throw him over a bridge?
That's what I mean. It's just
Come on,
like,
we're
what the
talking about lunacy here.
Yeah, you're talking about people that are not very well.
right.
You know, so it ends up, right, that I decide it's a good idea for me to fuck off completely. So what do? I decide to go back to the man, get a big load of drugs to go and do a deal in Cardiff. Because I used to do Cardiff, Glasgow, you know, places all over with, you know, with big amounts like, you know, in ounces and pounds in amphetamines or whatever, you know. The silly places that you'd carry them is you'd put it in things like the back of your head lights and all this to, you know, drive about with it and stuff. So anyway, I decide I'm going, right? No plan, no nothing. I'm off because I knew some woman who was there who I ended up getting married to. I went in and moved in with her for a while. And stayed out of the way. I never went and signed on. I wasn't recognised anywhere.
Right.
So it was a place that I could base myself. It ends up that I'm getting messages telling me that my grandmother and grandfather, Hobbs are outside the house. You know, they're sitting there and they're doing it quite a bit at a week, waiting for me to come back. I've actually been reported as missing and they don't know whether I'm dead or, you know, where I am.
Had they found the body for Ricky by then?
Oh, yes, they'd nicked him. He was like, honestly, he was like a pig in shit.
Right.
You know, everything that was going on, as far as he was concerned, he admitted it. Yeah, I killed him. You know, but he'd already been nicked for other drugs, quite a bit, and had guns and other things underneath the floor. He had one that he'd given to me when I'd actually got taken for a few quid in Wales, one of the places in the valleys, and he told me that, you know, you need to give me the money or this is what's going to happen. So he gave me a gun to go down there, and basically, you know, you're knocking on the door. Wife, kid comes to the door, live in her mum's house. He's there. And I said to him, is your husband in here? She went, yeah. I said, we tell him I want to speak to him. So out he comes. I said, I'm telling you, right, you owe me the money. I need the money. You better get me the money. He said, I ain't got it. I said, get me the fucking money or else I'm going to shoot you. Because that's what he wanted me to do. It wouldn't have been, you know, it wouldn't have been a problem if I'd have shot him and I didn't have the money, because as far as they're concerned, the debt would have been paid.
Right.
You know, these were heavy people, you know, much heavier than I'd ever visualised. You know, I didn't realise that I was in a situation that I couldn't just turn around and walk away. It wasn't like that. You know, you're in, you know, and basically back then they used to sort of vet people who were doing work for them. They'd check out your record, whether you've been in trouble, what you've been in trouble for. They had people like the Regional Crime Squad, people taking money off them. So, they give you a name, give them something else. Is this bloke kosher? Is he going to be all right? Is he going to, And they got all of this kind of information. It was amazing, the world that I'd walked into. Wow. And I regretted it. So anyway, I ends up, eventually I ring the police telling them, stop bothering my nan and granddad. I am alive. I am okay. I'm not missing. They said, well, we want to see you anyway. So I said, well, what do you want to see me for? And they said, well, we can't tell you that over the phone, but we will meet you anywhere you like. So I said, look, you've got to give me a clue. He said, well, it's probably to do with, we're looking at deals that had been done in Streatham,
right,
that I believe you did, and also to do with the murder of Ricky. I said, well, I don't know nothing about that. He said, well, we want to discuss it with you because we think that, you have some dealings with it, so conspiracy. Right. So I said, all right. I said, I'll see what I can do. I didn't stay on the phone too long. What I did is I got off the phone. Straight away, I rang a solicitor, got a solicitor to come to the police station with me, which was Cardiff main police station,
right,
and was picked up by their local drug squad from my house and taken to the police station and being questioned. And on this particular occasion, they started questioning me about a briefcase. So they pulled the briefcase out, and I did recognise it. It was mine. And it had the gun in it, and it had drugs and other bits and pieces. And they said, well, this is yours. And they said, your fingerprints are on it, and this, that, and everything else. I said, I don't know nothing about it. I've never seen it before in my life. Then they went on to the episode where I'd been stabbed up and I was in hospital, and I told them that basically I don't know who did it, don't know nothing about it, and it just went on like that. So right. I didn't really give them any information. They said, we want to talk to you again tomorrow. And we also believe that there's a possibility that we're going to charge you with conspiracy to murder. But my solicitor was there and said, either you charge him or either you don't. You've got to make a decision. So anyway, they said, well, we're not going to do that today. We'll carry on questioning you tomorrow.
Wow. So
please take me back home. So the next morning, they're knocking on the door. And I walk out the door smoking a joint. And these are the drug squad, right?
I think that went down well.
And so she said to me, you shouldn't be doing that, don't you? I said, who gives a anyway? I just carried on smoking the joint. Before I got in the car, drew on it and got in the car. So I was taking the piss really, because I thought, I've got this under control. I'm handling this okay. So I get down there, they carry on questioning me, and then in the end, they got nowhere with me.
Right.
They said, but we don't know, we may come back to you, we may not.
Right.
So that was that kind of situation that I was in there. I got nicked a couple of times trying to get into a chemist after that, and, trying to keep my habit going, but didn't happen. I got nicked, and I was the person that I was collecting my prescription from used to come and see me in prison. He's a psychiatrist, right. And he was talking to me about, we can get you out of here. And basically, I said, well, you mean if you can get me out of here? He said, well, what I can do, he said, I can take you into a hospital, he said, from the prison. He said, so that we can get on with trying to find you rehabilitation. So I thought, oh, yeah, this is great. Yeah, I said, I'll go along with it. Yeah,
so what was you in prison for?
Well, no, I was on remand because I got nicked trying to do a chemist.
Right.
And then they remanded me in custody in Cardiff.
Right.
Right. And so the doctor used to come in.
Right.
Because he lived in Cardiff and he used to see me at the big general hospital in Cardiff.
Did they bring them other charges as well about Ricky? Or
no, they didn't do anything about.
Right, okay, so that was all sort of.
Yeah, that was sorted.
Okay.
As far as they was concerned,
right.
once the man had stuck his hands up, said, I murdered him. He was about my wife and this, that, and everything else. He was going to go to prison anyway because he had loads of other drugs and other things. He was going to go to prison. So that was that. So nothing happened about that. So anyway, I get the doctor's come in and he's told me about this idea of his. And so I said, yeah, sounds good. He said, all right. And he said that, but there are a few rules, he said. I said, all right, what's the rules? He said, first of all, he said, you won't get an aspirin for an headache. You won't get a visit without someone being with you. You won't get a woman or anybody coming to visit you without having their bag searched. And you won't be able to see them on your own. He said, they're the rules. He said, and that's the choice. You know, you either come under those circumstances. And if you need to go anywhere, you will go somewhere each time with a nurse with you. So I thought, okay. Right, so off I goes. I'm in this hospital in Surrey, in Wales, and the strange thing is I was straight because I'd been in prison a while anyway on remand, so I hadn't been using nothing.
Right.
And I started to realise whilst I was in there, I was on the psychiatric ward. I wasn't on a drug ward. And then I started seeing people with other problems, their own stuff, you know. And I started thinking, look at that, look at the way they are, and look at you. You got your fucking life, you know. You're just throwing away your life. You know, what is it you're doing? Things started to tick in my head and start to change. And there was a guy in there who was having a visit from his daughter the next day, and he said to me, he said, will you shave me for tomorrow? Because he was like that. He couldn't shave or nothing. He said, because I've got a visit tomorrow. And I said, yeah, of course I will. I gave him a shave the next day and tidied him up and that. And I thought, I felt good about it. I felt I've done something for someone. And the unfortunate thing is I think it was the next day or the day after, he died.
Right.
But it always stuck in my head, you know, this has happened. And, you know, and then there were people that actually used to go off and go walkabout, even though I wasn't supposed to leave the ward without anybody. There was one of the patients that had run off and they were concerned. So I ran after the patient and brought the patient back. And a lot of it I started to think, you know, this is fucking madness. You're in a mad place here. So I had to go for the interview to go to the Lee community. So I went for the interview and I got accepted. And I ended up going into rehabilitation at the Lee. So I don't know whether we want to swap over with something with Chris now or whether we go in together.
On Steve, that you once told me, and everybody does it. You thought this is a smooth way for me.
Oh yeah, oh for sure.
He thought he'd be very clever.
Yeah, that's it. I'll go in there and they'll be all right.
The part and all the rest of it.
Right.
So the reality was something different.
Totally different, because basically what happened was when I went to court, they had decided it was a good idea for me to go to rehabilitation. So I thought, that's brilliant. Okay. You will go there for 3 months and you'll come back. I thought, that's no problem. Squeeze, I can do that. You know, I was thinking, I'm going there, but when I'd done that, they're going to sort of like, after 3 months, let it go. So anyway, 3 months goes by. I've done everything by the book. I've done everything the right way. I go back to court, reports and everything saying it's good and everything else, he's doing okay. So then the judge says, I'm really pleased you're doing really well, Mr. Walker. What we're going to do is I'm going to send you back there for another 3 months. So the 3 months became 6 months now. But by then things had started to change and I started actually believing that maybe I can do this, maybe I can change, maybe this will work. So when I went back on the second time, and, you know, things did really start changing. You know, you have to open yourself up, you know, you have to be honest with yourself and honest with other people.
Yeah.
And you're actually working with a group of people that you can't fool because they all know what you're like.
Right.
Because they're all the same. You're looking at your own clones.
Right.
They're the most devious bastards on this earth.
He's somebody who knows his way around the block.
Right.
You know?
So he can smooth his way around this.
Normally I can do that, right? But on this occasion, there were people that were sort of like catching me out here, there and everywhere. So in the end, you have to come clean. You have to accept that the only responsible person for all of this what's happened is yourself.
Right.
All of this, like, I was brought up with my nan and granddad, and, you need to feel sorry for me and all this shit, that you use as your plea for mitigation in court and all that kind of crap. It's gone. I no longer had that anymore because I realised that the person that was responsible for everything that went on was really down to me when it come to drug using, breaking the law and all this kind of stuff. So I carried on anyway at the Lee. I eventually finished the programme, which took me approximately 18 months.
Wow.
And in that 18 months, you don't go home. You're not encouraged to go back to the area you come from. And it's a very hard regime, no laying in bed, no nothing. You had a department that you worked in, every day, running the community itself, and cooking, cleaning. It wasn't the case that you were going there. You're not going to somewhere like the Priory where you're going to sit in there and it all gets brought to you within 3 weeks. Okay, off you go. You're all right. All they've done, in actual fact, is they've actually made a person or put a person in a situation that they're clean. They have not cleaned up their head. They've not done anything up here which is remotely anything to do with why they're using drugs. I got stripped down like an onion.
Right.
People took me to pieces, right, until I actually got to me where I was.
Right.
And looking at me as a human being, right, and then gradually putting things back on me. But the bad stuff was being left aside. It was always there if you wanted to take it up, but there was always another side to looking at what you were actually doing.
Right.
And I thought about my children. I thought about, all the situations that I was going through, which was all quite difficult. But I mean, as far as the Lee is concerned, my big ambition in some ways is to get people who know nothing about any of this stuff to do something about it. And I think that's the big issue for me. That's part of my story. I'm sure there's bits that I've left out. But the most important thing is that you need to have something there for people in this situation.
Right.
If I didn't have what I had, right, I would have definitely been dead. I would have died.
Or still using.
No, I wouldn't be using now. I'd definitely be dead.
dead.
I'd be dead. I mean, I had cancer. 15 years ago, I had liver cancer and everything. So, and I've had a liver transplant. So I've had a lot of illnesses and I've still got a lot of illnesses and I'm still going okay. But I think the problem that I see is that you've got people in the same situation as I was in who can't get the help they need.
Right.
Because there isn't the people there.
It's not available.
Is that because it's a bigger problem now?
No.
There's more people on drugs?
No. It's always been a problem.
Right.
Right? It's because the people that are dealing with it don't understand it.
Yeah.
Right? And when I'm talking about this situation, I'm talking about the people that make the decisions.
Right.
So you're talking about, the Prime Minister, the MPs and people like that. They don't listen to anybody, right? No. They've got their own agenda. Their agenda isn't to help some people. I mean, listening to what Chris told me this morning, they're looking at giving jabs to people who are obese.
Yeah.
Right? To help get them back to work. Well, you can't get someone to go back to work. They don't want to work in the first place, right? So stop it. Getting them to be thin ain't going to make the blind bit of difference. So there's a stupid thing altogether.
There's got to be that ethos inside them,
right?
That wants to be out in the world, wants to be part of it. But let me take this a little bit further. Steve, in his way, has not told you, he then became a director. But he didn't get that an easy way. He had to sit on groups, and what had happened to him, he did to them.
Right.
This is one ruthless bastard, I'll tell you that now. Right. You're coming to him and you want your life saved. He's going to want you to give your life to him so he can change you.
And that's and this is your
and he's
issue.
Going to strip you down. He's going to tell you who you are and what you are, and you're going to listen. And you've got a whole lot of people there who've got the same frame of mind as him, and they're going through the same process. It's what's needed. It's not just a soft touch. It's not just a plaster.
And I think this is this is your problem, right? You've got these people who make all these decisions. The truth of the matter is a lot of these people who make these decisions don't know anything. You're talking about someone who's been brought up with a silver spoon in their mouth all their life. They know nothing about poverty. They know nothing about drug addiction. They know nothing about any of the things that they make decisions. They're not there. Realistically, anybody, I believe, who's making any kinds of decisions on that behalf, not now.
Just answer it. Say, so I'm in a podcast. I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah, go on, Steve.
The thing is you've got all of these people who end up, because they've been to Eton and this, that and the other, they've studied law, everything like that, you know, they can't stop a boat from crossing the f***ing river, let alone, you know, and they don't know how to do it. Because if they did, I mean, they don't have any problem stopping someone's pension, just like that. Well, they can do that, but they can't stop a boat from crossing the channel.
I think the problem with
so when it comes to funding or understanding a junkie, there's only one person that they need to speak to about a junkie. Is a junkie. Right? No good at me and Chris sitting down, and we've never touched a drug in our life, talking about what we're going to do about drug addiction. Because at the end of the day, because we don't know we can't do nothing.
Can't do nothing.
Right? So you've got people in positions that cannot move any further forward. Right? Nowadays, you have to break the law to be able to get funding to go into a rehab.
Right.
And there are very few of them now. They're decreasing. But let me tell you this. You've got the rehab, for like the lay community, a group of people got together and decided to... the two doctors, Dr. Mandelbrot.
Oh, Dr. Mandelbrot and Peter O'Gorman. Yeah.
And them two guys came back from America with an idea that they saw over there. And they knew 2 months, 3 months didn't work. It had to be something longer than that. They had to get right into the soul of the people.
Right.
And they convinced some wealthy businessmen to put their investment in there. I've got the paperwork for that. And it worked. But the government then
decided that they wanted to fix something that wasn't broken.
Broken. You understand what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, not only did Steve deal with junkies, I go there with my parole officer, who's a minister, very nice man, Mike Howard, genuine man. And he tries to get me in because he said, Chris, you really should be, with your knowledge and your experience of people, you should actually be helping people in some kind of facility. He took me to the homeless. They didn't want me, ex-gangster and all that rubbish. And he said, I've got to pick a letter up from the lay community. He took me there, and I'll go in, and I sit in the car and wait. And he comes out, he said, the director would like to meet you. And the director spoke to him and talked about this, that and the other. And he said, would you like to be a volunteer here? So I said, yeah, I'll become a volunteer. If Mike thinks that's the right thing I should be doing. And Mike said, yeah, I think you should do it. Anyway, I did it. My first job was to take a man to court, and I had to take him by train to London. It was a hell of a lot of grief getting there and then getting over to the court and everything else. And I've got to have him there on time. Me, having done 15 years in prison, I'm going to walk into a court and they're going to listen to me. I don't believe it. But I do get in the court. And the usher said to me, would you like to say something about this case? And it's been put on me, yeah, okay, I will. And I get in the witness box and I said, what can you tell us about this man? I said, this man's done a condition of residence and we're very happy with him. It's been 6 weeks. He's adhered to all the rules and regulations. And there's more drugs in prison than there is out on the street. So if you send him at us, we're going to turn his life around.
Right.
If he wants it, if he really wants it. And I just ask you to give him a chance, my lad. He turned around, said, we've got to go and debate this, came back out. He said, Mr. Lambrianou, we listened to you and really appreciate you coming along today. And you can take this man back to the Lee community where he's got the funding and got the condition of residence. Away I went. Chris, will you go down to Brixton? Will you go down to Pentonville? Will you go to the Old Bailey? I'm standing in number 1 court where I've got 15 bloody years.
And got a car park.
How can that ever happen?
Right.
Me coming from where I come from to stand in the Old Bailey and turn round and say, please give this man a chance. We know his history, his family, all that. And no matter where I went. And then he turns around to me and says, Chris, he said, I want you to do Bullingdon Prison, maximum security. I said, what am I going to do there? He turned around, he said, you're going to go in there and take the programme into Bullingdon Prison. Me turning up at Bullingdon Prison, Chris Lambrianou, ex-offender, 15 years. Oh no, Mr. Lambrianou, please come through and all the rest of it. That's the kind of character and the name, the Lee community, and he built it.
Right.
So I go in there, I've got a group of 10 to 15 men, and I really get into them, into their soul and their families and everything else like that. And it comes to Christmas. And he said to me, Chris, you're going into Bullingdon Prison. You're taking a group. I said, no, I'm not. He said, you are. I said, Steve, I know what them men are going through. And I said, I'm not going to go in there at Christmas. And I walk out and they're going behind the door. He said, it's your job, you're going there. I said, no, I'm not. Absolutely refused. And do you remember what's her name?
Dilly.
Yeah, she came up on me and she said, Chris, you really should listen to Stevie. He knows what he's talking about. Them men want you in there. I said, but why? She said, because you're out on the street and you made it after 15 and that's somebody they'll look up to.
Right.
And against all my best wishes, I agreed to go in. I went in and them men greeted me like I was their long-lost brother. Chris, so thanks so much for coming in at Christmas. Shook my hand, hugged each other, and I told them I didn't want to come in today. I'm so proud I did. This man made me go in. And Claire did as well. You understand what I'm saying? And it's one of the greatest things. I came out of prison after 15 years, really wanted to fit in somewhere. I found my home at the Lee.
Right.
And not only that, the things you did for me. You took me down, got me a bank account. What happened when my daughter got very ill, had an accident, was in hospital for weeks. You said, go down there and be with your daughter because we can handle things up here, but your heart will be down there, so go down there and be with your daughter. And I was down there about 6 weeks, you remember?
Yeah.
When I was on convalescent after when I did
Aneurysm.
Aneurysm. You all came and saw me. I had 50 visitors coming to see me in hospital. And honestly, they did so many things. And then another time, I was on weekend duty and I got all the people together and I did one flew over the cuckoo's nest moment and I took them all down to Boscombe, down Dorset, on the beach. And we held groups and everything else. And I come back and I took them on a boat all the way round Old Harry and, the coastline and everything else. And I come back and I handed Steve the ticket, like £50 for the boat ride, which the guy gave us, took us round for £50. And there's the fish and chips. He said, did the Lee community take them on the fish and chips, buy the fish and chips? Did the Lee community take them down to Bournemouth? I said, no, I did. He said, well, you're bloody well paying for it. And it was the best thing I ever did. It was my one flew over the cuckoo's nest. I got these 25 people and they came back. None of them did anything wrong. Some of them people had never seen a cow or a chicken or anything else like that. They'd lived in cities all their life. And to see the smile on their face. And he was right. He didn't have a go at me for taking them down there. but I had to pay for it. It was my choice.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Chris, when you was in prison for that 15 years period of time, what was the worst violence you saw when you was in jail?
Worst violence? I was standing there talking to one of the train robbers, Bobby Walsh, really lovely guy. And we're chatting away, and a guy walked by me, or walked between us both, to go down to the end cell. And, hello, Chris, hello, Bob. And away he went in the cell. We never thought nothing of it. He came out, and when I looked at him, he had a kind of a red aura around him. And he walked downstairs, and within minutes, we were all bang away, get behind the door. That guy had gone in that cell, and he stabbed another guy to death over a transistor radio.
Wow.
Life meant nothing. People committed suicide. People died around us and all that kind of thing. Prison is sick. It's a hospital. And we were dogs, and we had loads of fleas feeding off the dog. So they really didn't want rehabilitation as such.
Right. But when you went through that process and you come out the other end, did you sort of feel like when
I wanted what I'd lost.
Right, because when you're at the end of your sentence,
I wanted my family.
Right.
I wanted to be everything my father wanted me to be, because he didn't let me down. He went round every prison for me and Tony, Hull, Durham, Parkhurst, Albany on the Isle of Wight. We didn't go to nice prisons.
Right.
We went to the very worst, toughest prisons in this country.
Right.
Cat A's.
Cat A.
And when you got to the end of your prison sentence, did you have any thoughts about actually going back into crime?
No. What I'd done, I took a sitting guilds in MIG, TIG, Argon and Arc welding.
Right.
And my plan was to go to Saudi Arabia.
Right.
And work on the pipelines.
Right.
Because there was money there.
Right.
And my brother Jimmy, I went to him for a job. He'd do anything for me, but he weren't going to employ me.
Right.
Because he thought the old Chris was coming out.
Right.
So, I'd want to be running the company and all the rest of it.
Right.
And it was his company. And so I didn't do that. I cut his edge. I trim his trees and that kind of thing, but he wouldn't put me to work behind the sheet because he didn't think I could do it. He didn't know that I spent a year getting them sitting guilds.
Right.
So, okay then, what happens? I get a job as a quarry manager, quite by chance. It's almost like it had been planned.
Right.
I walked in, there was a quarry manager's job, but the guy turned around and said, I can't afford to run this anymore because of so-and-so, so-and-so. Ain't got enough people coming in. But a guy called, what was his name? Oh, dear. Anyway, this guy came to me and said, we've got a business and we'd like to take over this quarry.
Right.
If you can help us, we'd be much obliged. And then I wouldn't leave. So this guy sent 3 people down to sort me out.
Right.
And I said, listen, you can never sort me out. I'm down here because I want to provide food for my children. I'm down here because I want to put food, I want to give my kids things. I'm working for my children, not for myself or whatever his name is, some silly bloody name. Right. And the 3 guys, they were like farming, young guys, had the lights on the top of the van and everything else like that. I said, sorry, mate, and they left. And then the man called James Budgett, his father was Arthur Budgett.
Right.
He was the trainer, racehorse trainer, and he owned all the land. And he came to me and he said, look, I know they've come down and had to talk to you and other people have. He said, you're not leaving? I said, no, I'm not. I came down here. I got this job from a job centre and he should honour that. And he said, would you like to take it over? I said, I don't want to take it over. I said, but a man's come and seen me and he'd like to take it over. And they became partners. They looked after me and that was it.
Right.
But we filled in this quarry because they were building the M40 and all the soil and everything else was coming over. And I loved it, being on my own, you understand.
And how old was you when you actually come out of prison, Chris?
43 years of age.
Wow. And what did you end up doing? Like, you went and had that job.
Yeah, but then Mike Howard took me to Lake Community.
Right.
And that's where I got to meet Steve.
Right.
Now, I saw the way he performed, believe me. He was ruthless. But I'll tell you, all the people he was ruthless with, they love him to pieces. He saved their life. Am I right, Steve? Well,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, at the end of the day, whatever it costs for you to help someone save their life, it doesn't matter how much you put in. If I'm giving you a hard time, it means I want you to survive. It means that I want you to live. It doesn't mean to say that I'm breaking the rules or, being in a situation where I might be using stuff against you that you've already told me about yourself. Right. In actual fact, I'm pushing it home. I'm making sure that you remember that, you've said this, you've done this. Right. This ain't about me. This is about you. And so that is how I would be. I would be very, very on the ball about knowing what it is that I was saying. I would never read files. I don't want to, right? I used to get stacks and stacks of files from people, but basically they'd been pigeonholed. They're stuck here. This person's this person's that. I mean, as far as I was concerned, I was a schizophrenic, right, with psychopathic tendencies. That's what my pigeonhole was, right? But what a load of bollocks. That wasn't who I really was. That's who they thought I was, right? So, and that's what they write. So when you're looking at somebody's file, yes, I mean, you obviously know what the crime is that they've committed. You obviously you look at a risk situation, but you don't.
But you read the person.
Right.
But it's the people you read, There's so much that you can read by just looking at a person, looking in their eyes and knowing whether they're truthful or whether they're not. Because if they can look you in the eye, then you know that they're actually communicating with you.
Right.
If you're looking at someone and you're talking to them and they're not looking at you, they keep looking away, you know full well straight away that they are not paying attention.
Yeah, they're bullshit.
You're not that honest.
Right.
There's lots of things that you can do with body language and how people connect and talk, and and it's not just about bad things. You share good things. You share lots of yourself. You have to share that because I've got to convince you, right, that I've done it. I know how to do it.
Right.
I'm not giving you any lead like you've had before. I actually want you to be successful and survive. And with me saying that, may not even say it in those words, but one way or another, they're going to pick up where I'm coming from. Right. I'm not coming from a place of being a barbaric bastard, right, who wants to give you a hard time because you've been an arsehole in your life. Because realistically, I can identify. I've been that arsehole. And I think that that's very important. Yeah. When people start reading things like textbooks and think that they can fix someone through a book, they ought to set light to the book because they're wasting their time.
I mean, I think one of the problems in England, and it's probably on all levels, whether it's like what you said a bit earlier about people not wanting to work, prisoners not getting, proper like rehabilitations to get them on the straight and narrow, or to do stuff at grassroots level to stop people committing crimes in the first place, and to give people that are hooked on drugs some proper rehabilitation and get them out. And I think the problem is, I was having this conversation earlier, and I think the problem is the respect has gone, right? And what's happened is we're living in this kind of weird sort of woke world where people go,
you're acceptable.
No
matter what you do.
You don't want to work, that's absolutely fine. You sit at home, we'll give you benefits. I was in the doctor's a few years back, and I was sat in the doctor, and when you work for yourself and you pay tax, you don't mind people claiming benefits or support if it's genuine, right?
Yeah.
But if people are taking a piss, right, and I'm sat in this doctor's surgery waiting for my appointment, and there's a girl there and there's a girl there, and they're both pregnant, And the one girl says to the other one, "Oh, when are you having your baby?" And she said, "I'm having it whenever." "Oh, have you got any more babies?" "You've got 2. And she said, "Oh yeah, I've got one at home as well." Blah blah. And this one goes, "Yeah, when I have this one, I'm going to get a 3-bedroom house, right?" And then she says to her, "Oh, are you still with the fathers?" No, they're all different fathers. I'm just doing it so I can get a house, and play the benefits. And you sort of think that, and these 2 girls are talking about it openly, like it's absolutely fine. And I'm sitting there thinking, I pay tax so that you can sit on your fucking asses and just churn babies out every day.
Yeah.
And that shows what is wrong with
with
Britain.
society.
And it's not just that bit, but it's all of it.
But we're going to take another step forward.
Right.
They get the house and they have another baby. And the first baby, who's the 3rd or 4th baby, he doesn't know who he belongs to. He's got no father. He's got no
Steve,
disciplinarian in
Correct. That's right. Yeah.
That's
Got no-
right. There's no discipline in him. And what he does, he starts on a little bit of weed. Then somebody says, "Oh, you better try a little bit of heroin, won't hurt you? Have a little dabble of that."
Yeah.
Or, "Oh, do you need a new pair of trainers?"
Go and do that.
"Yeah, go and do that for me." You got a bike, you want a BMX? Okay, I'll give you a BMX. Go and deliver drugs for us here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a
This is
12-year-old,
happening on
13 or 14-year-old, and the prison system has got to let people go because they want to put protesters in there.
Right.
For
You
squirting a
understand?
water
So what
pistol at
about them
someone for
kids?
2 years.
They're going to fill the prison system up.
Right.
We live in a world where these kids are wandering around and they're like, we want to belong. You understand what I'm saying? We've been there.
Right.
We know about pain. We know about distress. We know about racism. We know about you don't care.
Right.
We know about violence. And we know it don't work.
Right.
But them kids are learning about a different kind of violence, mental violence. They're in a war zone. Mum and dad don't get along. He hates her and she hates him. He's got to put money into the thing for the benefit of the, what they call it, child maintenance.
Yeah.
And all that. And he's running away from his responsibility. And that poor kid is in the middle of it. Just wants to be loved, like you said. I just want to be loved.
But but genuinely, all kids, if you look at anybody that's got issues, and when I say issues, it could be anything. It could be mental health, it could be relationship problems, it could be anything, right? Drug taking, crime. It all. If you trace it all back, it's all because they've either not had that family, and
They want to belong somewhere.
Look, we used to sit around a table and eat our meal together.
Right.
Now it's the mobile phones out. You understand what I'm saying? You don't even talk to each other anymore.
Right.
Just send a text.
Yeah.
You keep it short and simple. That's really what it's about.
Yeah, that's the way life has become.
You understand?
I mean,
eventually the mobile phone will go and they put what's the name? A thing in your head.
You going to get one of them, Chris? You sign up for that?
It's going to go. I think it's all right in the world because, then we had the small phones. Small phones have got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
They're going to be a suitcase soon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, carry it round with you like you did with the old mobile phones.
Yeah, the
In
old
the
rock.
80s, you had them. Yeah.
No, but the effect is when you're looking at a prison sentence and people that go to prison, what it actually costs to keep one person in prison and what does it cost to put them into rehabilitation? I can assure you, you pay a lot more to keep that person in prison than you do to actually have them rehabilitated. And the rehab actually works if it's actually administered properly and it's done in the right manner.
So what you do with
You're going to see that. You're going to see that, the Lee community in that.
Right.
Right. You're going to see what people want to change.
Right.
You're going to see Steve Walker doing his thing there as the management. But let me tell you this. One day he says to me, "Chris, will you come down to visit somebody in prison with me?" So I said, "Visit somebody in prison?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I want your opinion." And we go down and the guy's a lifer. He's been let out of prison several times. He gets drunk, he gets into arguments and fights, he goes back on a recall. We go down, the guy done time with me. And he come out, he said, "What do you think? Shall I give him a chance?" I said, "Well, nobody else has." Yeah. Steve got him there. He completed the program. Will you tell him, Steve?
Yeah, he completed the program. By the time he left, he was actually retirement age. But he'd been in and out so many times because he could never accept the fact that he didn't know whether he killed this person or not, because it was in a situation where they lived in a squat together, 3 of them, and this has ended up, there's been a fight and someone's got knifed. He don't know whether he did it or whether he didn't. And he said that even to the day, even once he was out, he's always said it. He didn't know whether he was guilty. And so he spent most of his life being very resentful that he's done all this time in prison and doesn't really know whether he's guilty or not.
That was he was out of his head, but that was all. It's like a drugs thing. Right?
Yeah, and the reality is that I ended up having to speak to him about the fact he had to accept the fact there is nothing that he could do about what has actually happened in the past. You need his biggest point. It was just a simple point, but he couldn't get it. He just couldn't accept the fact it's gone. There is nothing you can do about it. You need to move on, right? But to actually get that into him, I mean, for us sitting here now, that's not very difficult at all.
Right.
But for Michael, that was very difficult.
Right.
Because he found himself in arguments all the time because he became resentful. Every time he had a drink, he got resentful. When he got resentful, he'd start arguing with people, then he'd get recalled. And each time that he did that, it was all because he hadn't accepted the fact that there's nothing he can do about it. He's paid the price and then he drinks. See?
But you need somebody with your experience to be able to do that and fix people. Whereas, with what you're doing right now, have you rolled it out or is it just in one place?
No, they've shut it down.
It's shut now.
Right. They sold it. They built 25 houses on it, on the property. There is a rehabilitation centre there for women.
Right.
It's very, very small. But I'll give you an idea, Steve. When people came, the staff would go, oh, it's, what's the name, Paul. Do you remember? Yeah. You said, Chris, he's not Paul anymore, he's Sydney.
Yeah.
That was the name. He'd give him another name. So when they came in, it weren't Paul Calvert.
No, it was Sydney.
It was Sydney.
Yeah, I changed his name deliberately
he did
because
everything he could to save this man.
Every time that something went wrong there, it was always Paul Calvert. So one day in the handover, used to have a handover every morning, I said to him, right, okay, Paul Calvert this. I said, listen, there is no Paul Calvert here. They looked at me as if I'd gone mad. I've got about 8 staff in there. I said, no Paul Calvert here. I went there. No, I said, there's not. I said, from now on, I don't want to hear another word about Paul Calvert. His name's Sydney. And that's why I carried on calling him all the time. But he was a nice kid.
He was. And I'll tell you something. I got a telephone call. Would I go and say he went to Pentonville prison because somebody got him back on drugs. And he went back into jail. He was doing burglary. He went back into jail and he got stood on a pipe, put a thing up to the window as if I was to pretend he was going to hang himself. Well, what happened was he passed out.
Right.
And he did hang himself and he died. And it should never have happened in a million years. He wasn't the kind of man to kill himself.
No, he wasn't.
And, would I go and speak at his funeral? And had it in just up top of Mare Street. And his mother come to me. She was a lovely, lovely lady. And she said, Paul thought the world of you and the lay community for what you did there to him. And he was straight, but there were certain people didn't want him to be off drugs.
Right.
Because he was getting the money to supply them for their drugs and he fed their habit.
Right.
He was a good thief.
Yeah, he was their kind of like dog that ran and got where they wanted and all the rest of it. He was used and abused and he finished up dying in prison.
Wow.
But he was a really, really nice guy. I really liked him.
But going back to Mick, we went to his funeral, didn't we?
Yeah.
And his family turned around and said, we want to thank you so much to Steve for taking care of him and giving back our brother.
Right.
Yeah, I think he had 12 years or
Yeah, he did
15
have
years
12 years
from
out.
finishing it,
Not
the league,
going back to prison or anything else like that. The
living a
league
normal
community
life.
worked.
But it's not working now because it's been.
It's been shut down.
No, the league's not working because it's closed. But in general, my belief is that a lot of rehabilitation centres are not funded enough.
Right.
Right. The treatment programs are being administered basically by MPs who know absolutely fuck all about anything.
Program.
They want to make a program short. If someone has spent 15 years of their life with their head screwed up, they think that they can actually get inside your head and repair you, right, within less than 3 months.
Right.
And that's all they're going to fund, which is a nonsense. There is no way, when you're talking to a junkie, it might take you 3 months to actually get some truth out of them.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they've lived their life, in a devious manner. They're the worst of the worst. They don't trust anybody. So I'm not going to trust you with what's going on for me.
Right.
Right. But there is that thing that happens. But these people who are trying to do this kind of rehabilitation at this present moment in time don't get the time and they don't get the funding. A lot of the people that are trying to do the rehabilitation have no real insight into rehabilitation anyway, and they don't have the understanding that they actually need to be able to talk to these people or teach them because they can't identify.
Right.
It's, identification is very important, for these people. Because they're looking for a figure. They're looking, one of the biggest things for me when I did the program at the Lee was that I could see people there that were actually being successful. The staff members had actually done a program, finished the program, and were successful in life and doing well. Right now, all of those were encouraging signs. When you go and see some of the stuff that's going on today, you don't have those encouraging signs. Right. You don't have the time or the energy to be able to give these people what it is that they need. They come out, fall short, end up being in a situation where they probably end up overdosing because they go back to using the same amount as they was using before and kills them, right? So at the end of the day, I don't see this as a very caring society when someone has to break the law to be able to get funding for, why stick a plaster on something, right, if there's no need? The reality is you can't stick a plaster on rehabilitation.
I will swear by Almighty God, we could have saved George Michael. We could have saved Amy Winehouse. We could have saved George Best. We could have saved any amount of people that have died of drugs. But do you want to know something? Not in 3 months. Not in 3 months. Not in 6 months. They need to come in.
They need to be stripped down, right? You need to know what makes a person tick. Right? When they come to finding out what made me tick, I'll tell you how they did it, actually. I went into a group with 8 women every day for about a month. What was my issue? Women. Right? Couldn't trust them, didn't believe in them. I was abusive. Right, I didn't know how to get on. I didn't know how to keep a relationship. This is how I come to recognise that what I was looking for was a mother figure. Right. I treated every woman as if they'd abandoned me. I learnt that. I couldn't have learned it without someone actually knowing what my problem was. Right. So how do they do that? They draw it out of you. They draw it out of you whichever way. You can take it easy, or you can take it hard. Right. If you make it difficult for them to teach you, well, they might use things that perhaps other people would see as barbaric. Right? I don't see that. Right? As far as I'm concerned, if I'm doing a job, right, if I told you I was going to paint this room, you would expect me to paint it. If I told you that I'm going to help you rehabilitate, you'd expect me to do that. But you can't tell me what tools I can use. That's what the government try to do. They try to tell you how long you have, what you can use, what is right, what is not right, right? And they often don't even know how to tie their own fucking shoelaces.
And to cover that, okay, what Steve's saying there, I'll give you an idea. You've got a group, when we used to have the group.
Yeah.
And the man's up there, and he's done something wrong. He's pulled a stunt or something else. He thinks he's too clever, and he's got away with something.
He thinks he's got away with something.
He thinks he's got away until he's standing in front of the whole community.
Right, which could be as many
and
as
I'm telling you something.
25 people?
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, 50 at times.
Yeah.
And they actually...
Tear them to pieces.
Tear them to absolute ribbons. And he's standing there and got to take it. Now, I saw some people from outside, a magistrate and somebody else, top person. They both came into the room while this was going on, and they went away horror-struck.
Horror-struck? What's
dear.
happening here?
They can't have that kind of thing. You understand? It's the only thing that works is the truth.
Right.
The truth works, but nobody listens to the truth.
Well, listen, after this podcast...
This man knows the truth.
After this podcast, they'll be hearing it. So, for me, I've listened to what you both said, and I agree with all of it, because I definitely think... And the other thing is, with what you're talking about, Sir Keir Starmer needs to watch this podcast. He needs to take it on board.
We'll send him a copy.
And we'll send him a copy. I'll get
But
an email
also,
to him.
I want to bring up what we're doing now.
That's also important.
I mean, knife crime. I met a lovely lady called Sue Hedges and Francisca Lellystone, her friend.
Right.
And them people. I've been to number 10 Downing Street and protested with them. I've been to Scotland Yard and protested about knife crime in the middle of winter when the rain and the hail's coming down, and I've seen them begging the police to listen to them.
And you've also been to St Paul's, was it? Well,
Yeah.
the cathedral to try and get them to...
Yeah, St Paul's Cathedral to get. I went to Westminster Abbey, and I got in touch with it. It's not a bishop of Westminster Abbey; it's a deacon.
Right.
And I had personal wrote to him and everything else. You know what he said to me? I can show you the letter. He said, "Do you realise how much it would cost us to have a knife crime service in Westminster Abbey? We'd have to employ people, marshals.
Crazy.
We'd have to pay for electric and gas and all that kind of thing." And all he went on about was money.
What about the poor people who'd lost their family or lost some of their family?
What about Jesus, where two or more I'm gathered in their name? Well, I went to a thing called Lent us 20 quid, Mum, from the lay community. We went to Westminster Abbey. And I took Ronnie Richardson, Charlie Richardson's wife, along there. Right. She lost her son. She was able to grieve and mix with other people who'd lost them. If you see a mother's tears who's lost her son to knife crime or to drugs or something else like that, you break your heart. They're brave ladies and they want to do something. Sue Hedges, she goes out with bleed kits and provides bleed kits for people at different places, schools and other places, where if somebody's attacked or if there's an incident, they've got a bleed kit ready. That's what she gets funding for. The government don't give her any funding. It's people like yourself. It's people like us who go out and do kind of charity work or whatever.
Charity should be at home.
Yeah, that's right.
We should be being looked after properly by
Never
whoever's
mind
in government, right? We should be being looked after. I'm sick and tired, to be honest with you, with the waste of money that has been put into stuff that just don't work. And yet there are things that do work.
Really do work.
And they're not interested.
Go and provide funding to the mothers who lost children, and they'll go out, they want their children's memory to live on.
Well, I was having a chat with somebody earlier and we were talking about this, and they said there's two things. The first thing should be a 10-year prison sentence if you're caught carrying a blade, right? And then people will go, well, that's stupid because we haven't got enough prison spaces, or we're not going to be able to fix the problem, right, by just putting people in jail. But it's like a two-pronged approach. So the first approach is if you get caught carrying a blade, you get 10 years, right? There's no prisons for them. Well, guess what? Find a fucking island and put them on an island. And dig in fucking holes, right? Make their prison time hard,
yeah.
Right? It's all this like fucking PlayStations.
No, I'm going to tell you a better way. Give them to a man like Steve Walker. The ones that you know will never do it again.
Right.
There are them that do it out of they just do it through no other way. They can't see another way out of.
But you see,
standing up. But if you give them to someone like Steve, who strips them down, and they realise they could have gone to prison for 10 years, they'll walk back into a straight life.
The problem is, right?
Education.
I think that works, but the problem is, you got 70 million people in this country.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know.
Half of them that don't belong here.
I don't know what the population is of the kids, right? But if you look at young kids, kids from like 9, 10 years of age are carrying blades for protection, right?
Yeah.
Up to, probably 30, 40-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
So all these people are walking around with blades to protect themselves, or if they're in a gang, or because they're worried that someone's going to like rob them, whatever.
Or they're dealing in drugs and all the rest of it.
And at that point, there is no deterrent, right? I might get slapped on the wrist, I might get told off, I might have my knife taken off me. But if you know you're going to get 10 years, it's a long time, right?
Yeah.
Then
they don't do 10 years, they do half, they do 5.
But for me, it would have to be, it's 10 years and it's hard labour.
And it can be a recall.
And at that point, that will then, because it's all about, it's like if someone says to you, go to the Middle East, right? Yeah. And then someone says, I might go to the Middle East and steal a few watches or rob a few bags. Yeah. Don't fucking do that because they'll chop your hand off. Straight away, when you go to the Middle East, you ain't fucking doing it.
You're not going there.
Now, obviously, I don't know anybody in the Middle East that's had their hand chopped off, right? Yeah. But the thing is,
they do it.
It's a harsh fucking thing. You fuck about with drugs, you go to jail. There's no fucking we'll get you in rehab, you're going to jail. So I think if there was harder sentences on people that carried blades, but then they also went into the communities. You look on the estates now. There are no community centres. There are no places for kids to hang out. So all they do is fuck about. And if the mum and dad's not home at work, or the dad's not around, or the mum's not around, and it's a single parent family, people give single parents like a hard time.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to fucking provide, trying to do everything and be a dad and watch out for your kid, it's fucking hard work and it's impossible nearly.
Yeah.
Right. So having somebody that actually goes on these estates and say, how can we get these kids? Boxing, right?
Yeah.
Get them off the streets. But it's about discipline. It's about respect, and all these things are what I personally think are lacking. Right?
Well, they took away the funding, didn't they, for all of the youth clubs and stuff like that? Years ago, there were youth clubs, right? And then they would normally end up with a manager, and then the rest of them would be volunteers, right? I mean, I did volunteering in the youth club for approximately, I think, 5 years, right? And my partner did that as well, and she carried on for 7 years, right? But those kids were in a good place and it was safe. They were playing table tennis, bit of snooker, we took them away to the coast and things like that on coach rides. A good thing. And also, the old Bill used to come there and play a game of snooker and stuff like that with them, right? Which built a good base. And then all of a sudden, we're not paying anymore for these. We're not paying for youth clubs anymore.
Yeah,
because it used to be in the council budgets.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a lot of things, and everyone's got an opinion on it, right? But I definitely think that there needs to be a change. And look, there's tens of thousands of people basically highlighting these issues. So it's not just us.
Oh, no, I mean? No, for sure, for sure.
So, but I think the more people talk about it, hopefully there'll be a point where someone in government says, actually, there's a way of doing this and we need to get on it now. And change won't happen overnight. But I think it's that taking that step. Well,
I'd like people to know that we've not done this for money today.
Right.
We've not done it for money. We've done it because we want to get a
Chris,
message out
tell the
there.
truth. You had 2 cups of coffee and 2 biscuits.
Well, yes, I really appreciate that. Steve had 2 biscuits, I had 1.
Right.
I'm looking for a photograph here.
And I'll tell you now, there weren't a current or anything in those biscuits.
No, I'm sorry about that. You get a current when you come back for part 2. But it's important, and it's important that you spread the message.
Yes, the work we're doing now. That's Liverpool, Anfield Boxing Club.
Amazing. And you've got Matchroom and DAZN on it.
And we drove right the way up there.
We had Eddie Earn on here earlier.
Yeah. No, that's what we give them. Right. Yeah, there's the mother and kids again.
Amazing.
And what that is to do is to give people some money to actually just
something.
go
Give them
free.
something.
Let them have it for free.
Yep.
I mean, you just can't keep giving stuff away to other countries and everywhere else. I
And
mean,
that's me in
this
the
country's
ring
getting
with one of the
poor.
guys, look.
I hope you give him a f***ing good hiding, Chris.
He's one of the trainers. But, I mean, so we've gone all the way up to Liverpool.
Right.
You know, the driver paid the what's the name?
Right.
Paid for the petrol, so he put his part in.
Right.
We raised the money,
Lovely.
and we all went up there, and it was such a pleasure to do it.
Right.
What you get out of it is like a blessing that you've done something.
Done something that's good.
Yeah, good. You know, and it's like,
And, you're hearing that from two people
yeah,
who really wasn't that good at all.
and we weren't good people.
But you listen, it's not about
Yeah.
where you're from, it's where you're at now.
Yes.
Right? But
I
what
mean,
you're doing is
a lot
good.
had to do with the good friends I had.
Right.
Decent, lovely people who came into my life and really blessed me. Steve, for one, I mean, I'll tell you, I'll get in the car, we're going to work one day.
Right.
And he said, I've packed up smoking. I said, so have I then. Got a running, mate. Anyway, I think he's smoking. I'll keep my eye on him, you know what I mean? And he wasn't. And I kept going and going. Like, I'm alive today. I'm 85. I'm alive because I had a running mate to pack up smoking.
Chris, I hope that I'm as coherent as you when I'm 85, because you know, I mean, I haven't probably seen you for like probably 15 years.
that's right.
But you haven't changed at all. You're still the same.
What you've got to do is like be thankful for every day.
Right.
You can't buy time. I cannot buy one day.
Right.
But, you know, packing up smoking with Steve,
Right.
I've got the time.
Amazing.
Days and time. I wanted to be alive when my children were 17.
Right.
I've got 3 girls, graduates.
Right.
I've been there and I watched them go up with them mortar-boarding gowns, getting their degrees. I can't tell you what that means.
Well, you pat yourself on the back and said,
Yeah, that's
boys,
right.
done good.
It isn't about being with the Krays and all that kind of rubbish. It's about seeing love.
Right.
People you love doing well, and you've been part of their lives. You haven't, and the fathers that are not there for their children.
Right.
Please don't desert your kids.
Right. Funny you should say that, Chris. The thing is, just before I went away on holiday, I got all my children together. Some of them had never, ever met, right? So I had my 5 children all together, the oldest one being 58, right? You know, and they was all together and they'd all met for the first time. And now some of them are actually texting and talking to each other.
Right.
The last thing I needed was for me to die and them all turn up at my funeral, or if they might not.
Who are you?
But if they did, right, at least they know who each other are. You know, and I it was really pleasurable, you know, just to go and have a meal with them, from all talking together. So I had my children, my children's children, and my grandchildren. So it was, I tell you, it was amazing. There was 16 of us.
Wow.
One of my daughters went to work at the Lee after I left. You know, she's a social worker now, got a top job. I used to bring them to the Lee. They don't know nothing about the Krays.
Right.
Or the gangster, Chris, or anything like that. But they know I worked at the Lee.
You're good, Chris, now.
I used to take them over there, didn't I?
Yeah.
And they talked to I've got photographs of them with residents. Black, blue, green and white. It didn't matter what colour you are, it mattered what your heart was.
Right, absolutely.
You understand what I mean? They had kids and all. Yeah, I think about David Jolly, lovely guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
nice guy from
I
London.
went to his house and his wife died. But he had 2 smashing kids.
Right.
And he said, Chris, do you mind if I go and play football with them? I said, go on, Dave, go and do it. And I sat talking to his girlfriend's or his wife's mum.
Right.
And trusted him implicitly. He's on there.
Amazing. I'm
You'll
looking
see
forward
him.
to that.
You know, and if anything you want to take out of there.
I'll send you a book.
Okay, amazing. I look forward to that.
When I do the other thing.
Well, let's talk about the book. So your book, Chris,
I'll send you a copy.
what was it called?
It's called Escape from the Kray Madness.
Escape for the Kray Madness. And make sure you get a copy of that. And what's your book called?
Steve Unwanted.
Steve Unwanted, but we want Steve. Right, so gents, I've really enjoyed the chat today. It was great hearing about. It's like the old school and the new school, but it's the fact you've both obviously been
Finished in the same place, same road.
And it's magical that you're doing something to help others, and that you now want to share that with the world and say, listen, guys, we're open for business. So hopefully someone sees this, they give you a load of funding, or the government gets you on the phone and says, boys, let's go to work.
Let's come down and just have a chat with us.
Amazing.
And tell us where you think.
Or we'll go and have a chat with them.
Yeah.
And see if they'll listen.
We'll have a sit down with Sakir.
But-
So listen, Sakir, we'll have a word with you.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well, I'd love them to meet the mums.
Right.
And I'd love to have a service at Westminster Abbey
Right.
and invite all those people who've lost a beloved
Right.
to a knife crime.
I think that's a great idea.
That's right.
I think that's a
And
great
maybe
idea.
God would like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would Jesus.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Lovely to meet you.
You're welcome.
Lovely to see you. And no, been amazing. I mean, what a great chat. So I'm sure everybody that's listening or watching this will be buying your books, and I'm sure there'll be lots of great comments when we put this out.
We're just doing what we want to
Well,
do.
yeah, I mean,
Get the message out there. We're not looking for any kind of.
we're not looking for any
Humpty Dumpty,
praise
you
or
know what I
anything.
mean?
I mean, at the end of the day, we would just like someone who's in some sort of authority
Right.
to be able to pick it up and look at it for what it is, right? Instead of just thinking it's nothing because they know nothing about it. We just want someone to look and see if they can make a change, make themselves famous if they want.
There you go. So there you have it. Anybody from the government watching or listening, make sure you consider Chris and Steve's story and see if you can help. But I want to thank you all for tuning in for this week's Criminal Connection podcast. Chris Lambrianou and Steve Walker, what a pair of legends. They've gone through crime, they've gone through jail time, they've come out the other side, they're helping others. What a positive message. Crime doesn't pay, but what they're doing will reap benefits. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you tell your friends about us, and we'll see you on the other side.